All right, here we go. Hey, Mr. Smith, you ready? All right. All right, so welcome to another show with Voices in the Struggle. You may man, Big Ant.
I'm Brother Reggie.
And we have a very special guest in the house today who needs no introduction, Mr. Stephen A. Smith from ESPN. How you doing today, Mr. Smith?
Hey, guys. Good afternoon. How you doing?
All right.
We're doing good.
All right.
We're doing good.
All right.
We understand your time is valuable, so we're going to get right into it.
Sure. How about
the NFL protest? Do you think, for one, Kaepernick could get a job? And
no, he will not. No, he will not. Go ahead.
Okay.
And for two, do you feel like I kind of already know your answer to this from my reading up on you and you being a fan. Do you think the NFL, the protest is effective?
Well, I don't believe it's been completely effective. But what I mean by that is it would be negligent to sit there and fail to recognize there has been some positives. Like, for example, Malcolm Jenkins and the players talking with the owners and ultimately enabling themselves to coax $89 million out of NFL owners. Now, a lot of people would sit there and say, well, what does that amount to in the grand scheme of things, Stephen A? Blah, blah, blah. I keep trying to remind folks, the protests were never against the NFL.
Thank you.
It was about racial oppression. It was about racial inequality. It was about police brutality. What happened is Colin Kaepernick took a knee on a Sunday afternoon in a San Francisco 49ers uniform to protest. And even then, he didn't have folks following him. They recognized it, and they recognized his right to do so. But it really did not become an issue until the President of the United States spoke up and said, you should fire all those SOBs. When he did that, the NFL collectively became alarmed. As a result, you saw someone like Jerry Jones, who's from Arkansas, who owns the Dallas Cowboys in the South. He even took a knee with the players.
Right.
And so what happened is that he recognized how sensitive it was and that the NFL needed to band together. But then ultimately, the business reality set in. And the business reality is that you have a lot of constituents who follow Donald Trump, who said, you know what, this is about patriotism. And they bought what he was selling hook, line, and sinker. As a result, it diluted the position even more so, because even if you agree with Colin Kaepernick, there was far more players who were not willing to cost themselves, but ultimately it would cost them. And therefore, you see very, very sporadic protests. I don't think there's been a time, other than when everybody took a knee to protest the president, I think there's a time when we saw more than 20 players take a knee.
And I agree.
So at the end of the day, what did you really, really accomplish? And that's what this comes down to.
That's true.
See, but this is my thing, Stephen A. If we are a patriotic free nation like we are, the NFL players should have been able to take a knee at will. The NFL
Stop right there.
Uh-huh.
What I would say to you, and I'm not directing this comment I'm about to say at you personally. I'm directing it at all of us.
Okay.
When are we going to grow up? And here's what I mean by that.
Boy, please.
You're talking about what he had the right to do. Tell me one place in this country where they tell you you don't have a right to face any consequences.
Well, you don't have a right to do it.
You don't have a right to the consequences that may come with your actions. It doesn't say that anyway. Yeah, it tells you about your rights as an American citizen. But even though it doesn't enunciate or articulate or illustrate your consequences, they're still present. Everything you do has a reaction. Some are more innocuous than others, but there's always a reaction. And at the end of the day, they'll tell you in a heartbeat, well, when we're talking about what you have a right to do. You do have a right as an American citizen. Because talking legalese there. Guess what? Ain't nobody throwing these guys in prison. And you got to work with someone. The hell told you that to be up. And it clearly as a measure to the his every past meeting face to face. And
hello?
Said, I lose money. I'm up.
Yeah, okay.
See, but you would have to agree that this whole patriotic thing with the NFL is a patriotic scam. You know, they're being paid by the DOD to act patriotic. Before two, huh?
I'm not debating it. It was happening since 2008. You have to remember, the NBA players though haven't taken a knee. You know why? Because it was in their contract not to.
Okay.
NHL players haven't taken a knee. Major League Baseball players haven't taken a knee. They were all taking money from the DOD to engage in what Senator John McCain has called paid patriotism. That's not the real issue with this. The real issue with this is that you have a president who has an axe to grind and is on a vendetta kick against those owners. Because those owners wouldn't let him in when he wanted to be an NFL owner when he was in the USFL. They would not let him in when he was trying to own the Buffalo Bills in 2014. And so because those things, they would not let him in, I personally was on the phone with Donald Trump, the businessman, in 2014. I've said this on First Take and on my radio show many times. I personally was on the phone with him in 2014 when he said, well, if they don't let me in, I guess I'll run for president. And sure enough, he did, and he won. Right. So understand the power of a presidency and what that really entails. If you recall, when President Obama was in office, I believe it was like 2014. I forgot which year. Please forgive me which year. But I think it was around 2014 or 2015. President Obama included in his budget going about the business of trying to dilute funds, public funds, being allocated to cities or to teams, rather, to have new arenas built on public funds. He didn't want that.
Right.
So whether it was Milwaukee with the Bucks, whether it was St. Louis with the Rams in the NFL, or the Oakland Raiders or whatever, he was against an exorbitant amount of public funds being allocated and utilized for building public stadiums. He didn't like that. Well, what do you have owners thinking about with Trump? Trump is the president of the United States. He has the power to make it incredibly difficult for owners to use public funding for their stadium. Now, these owners are complaining about money when they increased revenue 4.9%. When each of them got a check for $255 million.
Wow.
And they still complain about money. Now, if you're complaining about money when you're making money, how the hell are you going to act as a sort of losing stuff?
Right, right.
That's what I mean when I say grow up. We all need to grow up and understand this is business. And that's why you have the owners of the NFL in panic mode. Because they're like, wait a minute, I'm supposed to lose money over something you're not even protesting at me for. Right. I don't have anything to do with police brutality. I don't have anything to do with racial oppression. That's what their thinking is. Their thinking is, we just own a football team. You playing on a football team. The very dude that was protesting was making $12 million, has pocketed over $38 million from us. We're not his problem. He's complaining about society, but his actions have made this our problem. And that is why they're acting the way that they act.
So
call it what it is.
So let me ask you this: How are NFL players supposed to use their platform to speak against the injustices? I understand that it's a lot of stuff that they can do in their community, and most of them do. I believe most of them do without even saying a thing. But they have a platform. They have an audience on the field. They have people following them on the field.
Let me ask you a question. What's your what is your full-time job, my brother?
I work for the government.
Okay, so you work for the government. Let me ask you a question. What are you doing right now?
What you mean?
You're talking to me.
Right. Yeah, I'm talking to you.
You're interviewing me.
Right.
Could you go to your government job and interview me on their time?
I could not.
No.
So my point to you is that I don't like saying that as more as you like, any more than you like embracing it. Right. I understand we all have a passion to do what's right and what's fair and what's just, particularly when you're a black man. Justice is what everything is about. I get it. But part of the obligation is understanding they're not. There's no black-owned international football league. They're billionaires. And they live by a different code. And if their attitude is, we've made a bunch of y'all millionaires and you're not even protesting us, why should we tolerate being a part of this? How can you argue with that? You can argue about it from a righteous perspective in terms of saying there are things more important than money. You can sit up here and make a just and righteous argument in that regard. But the reality of the situation is it's not their problem. And they're saying to you, it's not our problem. So when people sit up here and say, well, if NFL players don't make it here, what are they supposed to do? Well, guess what? If you're bad enough, you're a big time. Here's a very and oh, by the way, what about the proposal I made just 2 weeks ago? Not that this what? Call for a national protest. Take your argument. The NFL players, not the players Thursday night, because that's 2 teams and they got to work. But right. Every other NFL player is off on Tuesday. March your behind up on Capitol Hill. I assure you at least 1 million people will follow them. You go onto the doorstep of Capitol Hill to address racial oppression, address racial inequality, address police brutality, and you make sure everyone understands that every single year you will be back there doing just that. White, black, and otherwise, anybody wearing an NFL uniform, how much you want to make a bet you'll have the world's attention.
I concur.
Nobody has talked about doing that because you got a whole bunch of people that's talking. But at the end of the day, how many people have actually protested? I'll repeat what I said to you earlier. You can't give me an afternoon or an evening other than when Jerry Jones and them kneel. You can't tell me 20 players together.
Right, yeah.
And the league is over 600. The league is over 1,600 strong, over 70% black, and you can't give me 20 players together.
Very true.
Yeah. And by the way, I'm not talking about one team. I'm talking about the entire damn league.
Right. Yeah.
You ain't see 20 players. So at the end of the day, what are we really talking about?
Yeah.
What are we really talking about? See, I'm about getting things done. And I'm about making sure that you ain't whistling into the wind. And if you're going to make some noise, make some damn noise. That's what I'm about. That's true. What I'm about. I'm not about sitting up here and saying, oh man, we should do this and we should do this. But ain't nothing happening.
Right.
I respect the hell out of Colin Kaepernick. You understand, for the courage that he has displayed. But let's be clear, he didn't have a plan.
Right.
He didn't have a plan.
Right. He went into it doing it.
That's right. He went up in there, and then this is what came of it. And oh, by the way, while you asking me this question, everyone else asked the question, and the president alludes to the national anthem stuff, and we talk about it on First Take, and I talk about it on my radio show, and other networks talk about it, and other players are talking about it. What? We ain't heard a damn word from Colin yet. Where have you been?
Yeah, I saw your radio show. You made that point. That was a really valid point that I didn't think of at the time.
We got a whole bunch of brothers. Listen, you got a whole bunch of brothers out here that, the bottom line is that even if you're speaking out in this climate, you're putting yourself on the line. You're putting yourself on the line. He showed up to receive that honor. Beyonce introduced him.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I'm not saying that he hasn't done anything privately, because I'm not here to question his charity or his philanthropy.
Mm-hmm.
The brother is to be admired and respected in that regard.
Mm-hmm.
But as it strictly pertains to this protest, where was the plan?
Yeah, right.
We do this with each other.
Mm-hmm.
We fight and we fight and we fight for the supposed underdog, not realizing or accepting sometimes cats make themselves underdogs by how they handle things.
Okay.
That is the truth.
I can agree with that.
Yeah, I see your point on that. I definitely see your point on that. Now, do you think any of the elite NFL players are gonna try to do something? Like you said,
listen.
Yeah.
Listen. The best quarterback, as far as I'm concerned, the best quarterback in football, Aaron Rodgers, for Colin Kaepernick.
Right.
Spoke up for him. Tom Brady didn't that.
Right.
Now he didn't insult him or anything. He spoke strongly of him, but Tom Brady hasn't said much.
Right. Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
The fact is that was not a problem for Aaron Rodgers.
Mm-hmm.
Aaron Rodgers spoke up.
Right.
What more is he supposed to do? And if we really want to be honest about it, we want people to be conscientious observers. We want their heart and their soul to be in the right place. In the right place. Fair enough, fellas. But can I ask you a question?
Go ahead.
When are we, as African Americans, as black men, going to get to a point where don't we need to understand that people who are not black are not going to necessarily have our same sensibilities? They might find something wrong. They might be appalled by something. And make no mistake about it, that during the civil rights era and beyond, there have always been folks from different ethnicities, including white folks, who have stepped up and put their neck on the line for us because of what they believe is right. So by and large, most people don't have black sensibilities the way black folks do.
True.
Just like black folks might not have Jewish sensibilities the way Jews do. Just like we might not have white sensibilities the way white folks do, or Hispanic sensibilities the way Hispanics do. It's life. And so understand that there's just going to be a vast majority of time where people are not on the same page as me and you are, as this pertains to what we believe is the right way to go about handling a particular situation. That's just the real world.
And the bad thing is most black people, I wouldn't say most, but some black people won't do anything until it comes to their doorstep.
Well, yeah, but I'm less dogged. Less is the word, actually. I'm less dogged about that than you for this reason. We can't sit up here and lament our plight as a people, constantly allude to the struggles that we have to endure on a day-to-day basis. I'm talking about most of them. We can't highlight that, lament that, bring that up, recognize the struggle that we have to go through just by virtue of who we are, and then say such things so loosely about our people. And the reason why I say that is because if you're wondering about where you're going to make ends meet, if you're wondering about your ability to feed your family, to pay your bills on a day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month basis, it might not be that you don't care literally. It might be that you can't afford to preoccupy yourself with that struggle because this struggle is more immediate and directly impactful to you. If I am a black man or a black woman and I have a job that's giving me a minimal amount of money and I got kids to feed and a roof to keep over folks' heads and rent or mortgage to pay, and I'm struggling and I'm grinding every day, you're going to have to forgive me if I don't have time to be worried about Colin Kaepernick.
No, that's true. That's true. And that's where some of us see it, Yeah, but you
I have that level of compassion and empathy when it comes to our own, because I don't think it's right for us to be having that kind of attitude. Well, people don't do nothing; they just stand around and they won't do a damn thing. Well, who's to say they're not doing anything? Maybe, just maybe, they're preoccupied with their own struggles, because their struggle is more direct than a dude who walked away from millions and took a knee that jeopardized, if not flat out compromise, making more millions. Who can pay his bills?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you know, that's a valid point.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't argue with that.
Right. Yeah. You know.
Hey, somebody.
That is the role. That is the role I come from when I'm speaking every day on national television. I understand. I get it. Mm-hmm. I understand that it's easier said than done. That everybody ain't going. They're not going to have the same focus. I don't consider them devoid of being down for the cause, or devoid of courage or anything. No, I'm like, they're grinding.
Yeah,
they are grinding.
Yeah, that's true. But everybody's not. Some just don't care. But I got a question from your friend here, Pamela Murphy.
Okay.
Should we push our young black people into the offices of sport entities like we do to get them to play? Can they make more of a difference from the office instead of playing the game?
I say the combination of it all. Why do we have to be the one-dimensional? Go for it all. Mm-hmm. Go for it all. So listen. We got players in basketball and football and other sports. We've got accountants. We've got lawyers. We've got politicians. We have people in the media. Who's to say we need to limit ourselves? Everybody can't do everything. There's nothing wrong with that. The key is coming together collectively with a plan. And of course, we talk so much about history, yet we ignore it sometimes. Yeah, when you talk about Rosa Parks and Martin Luther King, to the days of Selma, to the massacre of Selma and beyond, the March on Selma and everything else. When you talk about civil rights legislation, when you talk about so many different things, do you not understand that it was a coordinated effort by our very own people to make those things happen?
Unified.
Even in the world of sports, some people argue, Gibson and Thatcher Page, and you had a plethora of people that were better athletically than Jackie Robinson. Mm-hmm. But his temperament was what was needed and highlighted by Branch Rickey in order for this man to integrate baseball. Take Aaron, when folks were sitting there and sending them death threats and threatening to kill him and all of this other stuff, because he was about to eclipse the all-time home run record. You don't think that man wanted to hurt somebody?
Definitely.
But everybody can't be that way, because there was immediate emotion that you're provoked into letting go of can end up costing you everything. And we have an obligation to think about folks greater than ourselves. That's what I do when I'm on the air. You don't think I hear the attacks aimed at me? You don't think I hear about people coming at me?
I just appreciate you being unapologetic about it.
But I'm in corporate America. And so I understand it's about the marathon. It ain't about the sprint. Mm-hmm. And it ain't always about expressing yourself for 5 minutes and costing yourself a career. You gotta be courageous. You gotta be informed. You gotta be all of those things. But you also gotta be smart. Mm-hmm. And you gotta be wise. And you gotta think about the lives of the many, not just your life or the life of the few. Okay. I get that.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. You think Eric Reed is going down that slippery slope just like Kaepernick?
I think he already has.
Yeah,
I think he already has, and I think he's screwing him over. There's no question, because there's no reason he should be without a job. No reason whatsoever he should be without a job. But I'm not surprised. Mm-hmm. Yep. Hey, listen, remember the kid Brandon Marshall for the Denver Broncos?
Right. Yeah.
He was taking a knee.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's he been doing?
Right.
All of a sudden, he stopped because those endorsements left him, right?
Right.
Those endorsements come back out?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying they have or haven't. I'm saying if they have, I don't know.
Right.
I didn't hear about it.
Yeah, ain't the same type. Yeah.
No, I didn't hear about it.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah.
Listen, why? Because the message is going to be sent. You're gonna pay.
Oh yeah.
You don't pay a price.
It's in the clear message. Like you said, if all of them don't do it, if all the black players don't do it at one time, it's not going to be effective at all.
Basically.
Yeah, at all. So they can individuals.
That is the reality.
Yeah, because individuals they can pick apart and make examples to the league. So, but as the whole, if all of them don't just sit down or take a knee at the same time, like you say, more than 20 throughout.
The way I look at it, so much of our history and our progress has been focused on economic empowerment.
Mm-hmm.
Because in a capitalistic society, more so than anywhere else, money talks.
You're right.
And so when you think along those lines and you're about the business of making money for yourself and those you represent and those who are associated with you, your chances of being successful at whatever you choose to venture into increases exponentially. And that's how I think. And that is what I try to encourage folks from my community to think. There are plenty of people who are informed, more accomplished, smarter, the whole bit. And I root for us every minute of every day of my life. But I also recognize challenges we face and the manner in which folks choose to go about things from time to time, I believe are counterproductive. Think about it. If Colin Kaepernick had taken a knee and then he said why, but said, my message has been sent, I'm going to play football. Do you realize that we would not have forgotten? He would have been forever synonymous with why he announced that he took a knee. We would have remembered it. We would have appreciated it. He'd still be getting paid.
Right.
He'd still be playing. And then all day, he'd probably be giving speeches and making sure his message was heard. Marshawn Lynch.
LeBron James going to the Lakers.
I love the move personally because I'd rather be in LA than Lake Erie and Ohio any day of the week. I need to be very clear. But in the same breath, I think with time, I think that he's achieved. He came back to Cleveland and fulfilled his promise. Had he gone from Miami to LA, that would be different. But to come back to Cleveland for 4 years and to give them the moments that he gave them.
Right.
4 consecutive trips to an NBA final, delivering on a championship promise that has escaped the city for more than a half century. You cannot say enough about what this man did for Cleveland. He owes them nothing. He did a phenomenal service and has been a phenomenal servant to that community and especially to his hometown of Akron, Ohio. He's a wonderful representative for those people there. You cannot say enough about what he meant to the sport of basketball and what he meant to them. He did what was best for himself. I have no problem with it.
Okay.
Good. Now let me ask you this. I really hate this question, but I was told I would get this out. Do you think LeBron or Jordan, which one is the better player?
Michael Jordan, but I'm not interested in debating that with anybody. My position is clear. I have said it for many years. I will never deviate from that position, and anybody who even asks me about it is really wasting my time because I'll never change my position.
There you go. There's no question about it.
Good.
I know what I've seen with my eyes.
Right, exactly. Hey, you and me both.
They can say whatever they want. They just wasting my time.
Yes, sir. Hey.
Well, listen, man. Hey, I thank you so much for your time, man.
Appreciate you.
We appreciate you taking the time for our little radio show. It means a lot to us. I'm your fan.
Well, you're friends with Pamela Obama and her father, my daddy, Horace Obama was an incredible friend to me. He was a good man, and he always watched over me throughout his years as the head of NBA security. And he was a great man. He was inspirational from the fact that he always looked out. He never failed to extend a helping hand to me. And to this day, I do not know why. I don't know why he took a liking to me so much. I think it was much more than I ever deserved. Right. But he was an incredible man to me. And so I'm happy to do this because it's something that she wanted me to do. And anytime I have an opportunity to make the Baltimore family happy, I'm a very, very busy man, but I try to make time whenever I can. And this is one of those times I'm able to do so.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, man. And I want to send my sincere condolences to you as well.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you very much.
We appreciate you, Mr. Stephen A. Smith, ESPN, Mr. Stephen A. Smith.
All right. Take it easy.
Thank you, man.
All right. Thank you, man. Have a good night.
You too.
All right. Yo, that was outstanding, man.
Yeah, that was all right.
You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, real good.
Stephen A. Smith.
Great. Yeah.
That was,
man. Now we got to get Shannon Sharp on next, no?
We got to get Shannon Sharp on that. We got to keep the bar high, right?
We got to get Shannon Sharp on next.
Yeah. But hey, I hope you enjoyed the show as much as I did, and hearing Stephen A. Smith, Pamela Murphy. I cannot thank you enough. I cannot thank you and Stephen enough. I got to tell you, I can't. There's nothing I can do that will measure up to that. But hey, we're about to get out of here, man. It's been one hell of a show.
Yeah. We got next week. Who got to come on next week, man? You got anybody?
I'm still confirming somebody next week.
Okay.
So, but I'll put that out there as soon as possible.
Yeah.
But if you would like to be a guest on the show,
or know anybody want to be a guest on the show,
or know anybody want to be a guest on the show, got something worthy to talk about. You don't have to be in any position or have all type of money. You just gotta, want to have something to talk about.
There you go.
Email us voices, VOICEZ, in the struggle @gmail.com. Or my number's all over Facebook. If you have my number, give me a call. Brother Reggie, he's a little more grocery scoochers reserved.
Right, I don't answer the phone.
So, hey, man. Voices in the struggle.
Back again.
And we out. We will see you next week. Hopefully we'll have another special guest planned for you. And thank you all for the time.
Oh, yeah.
Hey.